All day, I appreciate it.
That's right, bye. Now, check the, can you spell for? Well, that's a good one. How are you?
I'm good, how are you? Good.
He can just say that we'll automatically. I'll ask you, yeah, I'll ask you. I'll ask you. I'll tee it up. I bought one, so we only have one in our office.
I brought mine in.
I've got a couple.
You have a couple of them?
Ready to frame.
Thank you. I wish I brought that. I know I have one.
John, did you find your copy?
That was great stuff.
Yeah, man. Printed out like 4 different sections, so I got it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it finally came through. But it's just-
I see you driving when I'm walking my dog.
yeah.
I'm talking about last week.
Oh, yeah. Keith found it in the United States. It was in the United States.
And only do so much.
You freeze me to death, Mr. Humphrey. I can't stand it forever.
Nadia of the Gorgeous, right
That's
here.
right. No kidding. Mr. Humphrey likes it on ice.
I like that kind of, that's the same way our house is, so.
Fort Hadley, I bet she keeps it cold.
Yeah, she has, we have a little, she has a little thunder, she has a thunder jacket on her. I reach for the cool, yeah, she, the thunder jacket.
She doesn't shed as much, right?
No, she didn't shed it on, she has hair.
Oh.
She has hair.
Yeah, she, I hear that dog wants to go back home now, the cube is open.
I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Town of Abingdon Planning Commission for the record June 27th of 2016. We have the roll call, please.
Sure, Mr. Kelly?
Here.
Mr. Humphries?
Here.
Ms. Costello?
Here.
Mr. Austin?
Here.
Ms. Reeves?
Here.
Mr. Berkeley?
Here.
Mr. Schuman? Here. Mr. Chairman, all are present.
Thank you very much. Item 2 on our agenda tonight is approval of minutes. You should have in your packet tonight a copy of the proposed minutes for May the 23rd of 2016, our regular meeting at that time. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those minutes? Are there any additions or corrections? If not, I'd be pleased to entertain a motion to approve those as proposed to us.
Mr. Chairman, I move that they be approved.
Thank you, sir. Second?
I'll second that.
Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I wasn't present, so I'm going to abstain from that vote.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shin. All right, next on the agenda tonight is the preliminary subdivision plat review. Michael Noonkester, owner, 28357 Osceola Road here in Abingdon. Matthew Bundy is the representative, 321 West Main Street here in Abingdon. Proposed 4-lot subdivision at 1103 Empire Drive, currently zoned office and institutional, tax map number 106-7-1A. Mr. Johnson, you want to give us an overview of this, please?
Sure. CJ, do you mind putting that up on the screen for us? Excellent. Mr. Chairman, you have the information in your packets, probably a little bit easier to read than the one that you see in front of you. However, I just wanted to go ahead and display that for the public as well. The gentleman, Mr. Newcastle, came to us and asked us about the possibility of subdivision on this particular piece of property. And I did put some information in the staff briefing about the history of this property. And then a lot of you have been here and were probably on the commission when some of these came before the commission. There have been some things going on there that requested special use permits for light industry within the O&I district. This doesn't have anything to do with changes in use on the property or zoning. This is simply just a request to move forward with the subdivision on the property. The way that this works is the preliminary plat comes to Planning Commission, and then they would give a nod for the applicant to go back and finalize their final plat, and bring the final plat back. Final plat goes before the Planning Commission as well as the Town Council. Mr. Dew and I have looked at this, we've reviewed this. It generally appears to conform with the subdivision ordinance. But happy to answer any questions you have.
What are they going to do with the existing building?
My understanding is that and I'll let the applicant speak to that, but I believe that they're currently using that for some activities that they have going on there. Would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, I'm just using it for.
If you,
Come up if you would, please, Mr. Noonkester.
thank you.
If you'd state your name and address for us when you get up here.
All right. Mike Newcastle. It's, my business address is 792 Ball Lane, Abingdon, Virginia. That's where my business is now. And I've just, long story short, was years ago, I've outgrown the building on Ball Lane. And I built a new building up at the Rock Quarry. And I got bought out by one of my largest competitors, and I sold that building, and it ended up on a no-compete contract. And after that ended, I started back in my building on Ball Lane. And I swore I would never have any more employees or anything like that, but it's grown, and I can't stop it. So I'd looked at Mr. Moorfield's building looked at it, never really talked to him about it, and then I ended up buying it, and I don't need all of that property. And so I'd like to be able to sell it off, you know, and I've got somebody interested in one side of it, and they say the zoning and everything would be exactly what they would need right now, but, you know, I don't know what they're going to put in it, but they said the zoning was fine. But I thought while I was doing that, I would go ahead and subdivide it what I don't need, and then I can sell it off, you know.
You don't have any questions, Mr. Newcastle, while he's up here?
And every neighbor, I think, in the subdivision has been over there and checked me out, so.
Well, I don't have a question, Mr. Chairman, but I do and I don't. I just want to make sure that all the parties know that the subdivision ordinance requirements do take place, which means you have to put sidewalks in, you have to put guttering in, you have to put in all the things that are necessary for that. Can be very costly, so I just wanted to make sure that you do realize that.
Well, now, we asked for it to be waived. Is that not right, Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could I address that, Mr. Humphries? One of the things that I believe, and I was going to state this to the board, to the commission at some point, but I was on the commission, and I'm not sure who else, maybe Kenny. We subdivided this once before, and because this property fronts on a road that is not owned by the town of Abingdon, at that point in time, those things were deemed not necessary to be improved. And I think Mr. Johnson had put a recommendation to that effect for this one.
Correct. I spoke to Mr. Dew, and he can jump in here and correct me if I'm incorrect, but because it is a VDOT road, it's outside of our jurisdiction to require that. And just like Mr. Kelly said, this was a matter that came before the board several years ago, and it was approved by both the planning commission and the town council. However, it was not recorded at that time, and so that's the reason that the limits have expired.
So are there requirements from VDOT that mimic what we had before, what we have now?
Mr. D, you have any idea?
It's, well, they're wanting 207 feet of flare on the driveway coming out, and I think Rachel's going to meet with me at VDOT and look at it, so.
Yeah, VDOT has their own requirements for an entrance connection, which is, I think, what Mr. Newcastle was talking about
Yeah.
here. But as far as I know, the sidewalk and curb and gutter is not required automatically by VDOT for a development like this.
So
But
what,
he did mention the flare coming out of the entrance.
right, so what precludes the water runoff? You know, how do we how is that managed then? Because I know that's a big, that's really one of the things that we really look for now in water management. So does VDOT have their own water management for that?
Well, they look at it as far as the entrance is concerned, but they're dealing with what water is down there, like toward the ditch line, making sure that if an entrance is put in, that the entrance itself isn't blocking water. So I'm sure he has to demonstrate by design that
Yeah.
the entrance is capable of handling the water down there. Now, as far as any development up on the site, that is within the town of Abingdon corporate limits. So we would have jurisdiction over looking at the site development itself
Right.
and take a look at the stormwater.
So,
generated
so,
from
so
it.
what about drains and stuff like that? That is not a requirement in that area? Drains?
It could be with any site development plan, full-out site
Yeah.
development plan.
Yeah, and whoever I sell it to, I guess we'll have to cross that bridge, as far as whatever they're gonna put
That's
on
where I
it.
think we would look at several things, including stormwater and also potentially traffic impact, because that is a challenging roadway, as it is, trying to get back out on Main Street.
When I bought it, I thought it had already been subdivided. I didn't have no idea that he hadn't recorded it, so, it's just about a duplicate of what he had done. But,
So what is the current zoning?
It's office and institutional.
Mr. Johnson, when we talk about it not being a VDOT road, once it leaves the roadway that's shown on here, is that where it becomes private in nature? Is that what you're saying?
As you can see this, where the right of way, the property lines end, it's
Where it crosses the property line there becomes private, is that what you're saying?
correct.
I think, I will jump in there, it'll actually be private from the time it leaves Empire Drive. It's a private entrance for, according to, per VDOT.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think VDOT will be maintaining the entrance itself.
Correct.
But the funny thing is, I looked at the entrance and what they require, and my entrance is 19 foot wide, and in front of my entrance, Empire Drive's 15 foot wide.
Yeah.
The road, so.
So, Mr. Johnson, I'm not sure I understand in what you've written here. It says that, it's staff's opinion, the subdivision ordinance doesn't apply because it's outside the town corporate limits, or because it's not along a VDOT maintained road?
Because it's outside of the corporate limits, just like Mr. Dew explained.
Okay.
We don't have jurisdiction to make that requirement outside of the town's.
It is a VDOT maintained roadway. Empire
It is.
Drive is
Yes.
VDOT maintained.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I might add, that this goes back to an earlier annexation of the town of Abingdon, and at that time that it was annexed, for whatever reason, they did not annex the road into the town limits.
And which has been very problematic for us, because trying to solve the problems there at exit 19, that road is not under our control, and that's one of the reasons why that's been so problematic for us to try to get those problems solved, and trying to work with the VDOT to try to get those solved. So hopefully we're getting close to some type of resolution sometime in the next 6 years or so, that we'll be able to do something with that, so.
I'm really trying to improve it because, you know, it's sat there for 11 years and hadn't even had no electricity or water or anything on it, so.
All right. Any other questions of Mr. Newcastle? Mr. Bundy, is there anything you'd like to add to the discussion we've had?
Yeah. Yes, my name is Matthew Bundy. My business address is 321 West Main Street, Abingdon. I did just want to clarify, this is basically identical to the plat that was previously approved, except that Lot 4, the large lot on the side, has gone from being 3 separate lots to being 1 lot. So basically, we've taken this from being 6 different lots to 4 from what was approved previously. And then otherwise, we do have in the narrative the stormwater, that was a question. And as any of this is developed, they will have to meet the Virginia and the town stormwater requirements, but the individual lot owners would be responsible for that if someone purchased one of these other lots or the person purchasing lot 4. Did you have any other questions?
So he is gonna use the existing building?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Any other questions? All right. What's the pleasure of the commission in regards to preliminary subdivision plat review?
Mr. Chairman, since I was on the commission when it was approved the first time, I'll make the motion that we approve it as presented here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. A second to that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Any additional discussion in regards to it? If not, I guess we need a roll call, even though it's just a preliminary plat review, but let's do roll call on it, please.
Sure. Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Ms. Costello?
Aye.
Mr. Austin?
Aye.
Ms. Reeves?
Aye.
Dr. Berger?
Aye.
And Mr. Schuman.
All right. Very good.
This will be brought back as a final plat to the commission at a later date.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 4 on our agenda tonight is preliminary subdivision plat review, Marathon Realty Company owners. PO Box 518 here in Abingdon, Stephen Spangler, representative, PO Box 518 Abingdon, proposed 10-lot subdivision. Property is located near 440 Green Spring Road, commonly known as the Meadows Development Project, Zone B2 General Business, including all or portions of tax map numbers 105-A-39, 021-1-5B, and 021-1-5.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, pursuant to the Virginia Conflicts of Interest Act, I have a conflict in this matter. I think we've discussed that before. I'm an employee of HealthSmart, and HealthSmart does all of the workers' compensation administration for KVAT, and as such, I meet the threshold for that. So I'm going to ask to be excused from voting or discussing this matter, and I'll rejoin the meeting after it's decided.
All right.
Assuming it's not all that way.
Thank you, Mr. Schuman. Let the record reflect Mr. Schuman's taking a seat in the audience at this time. Mr. Johnson, you want to give us an overview of this, or do you want Mr. Spangler to do that?
I'd be happy to start.
Okay.
This is essentially the same type of consideration that you just saw before. It's for preliminary plat, 10-lot subdivision. The information is in your packet. It is quite involved. It is quite technical. I will say that Mr. Dew and his staff and I and my staff have looked over this many, many times and feel like it does meet the criteria for preliminary plat approval. It will come back before the planning commission at the time that they will present their final plat, and it will also go to town council for their approval as well. And if Mr. Spangler would like to add anything to that, I'd be happy to entertain that.
From the plat perspective, that covers it from us. It's what I presented to the planning commission 2 months ago, other than working with Mr. Dew and Mr. Johnson and his staff, just adding the required elements to the plat. It's basically the same what we presented last time, but I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission has from us.
Anyone have any questions, Mr. Spangler? All right, thank you very
Thank you.
much, sir. Mr. Johnson, do I understand that from the Planning Commission standpoint that the purpose of our reviewing this for preliminary purposes is solely to determine whether or not it's in compliance with the town subdivision ordinance itself?
That's correct, and I know that essentially, the planning commission puts a lot of reliance on staff to have done their job to look at the technical aspects. And at this point, it's just, if there are any red flags that are raised as far as the subdivision itself, the layout or things like that you would be concerned about, you could notate those. And again, they would go back and they're going to create their final plat, which will be what is recommended to town council. Once that is approved by town council, they have the right to record that. Once they have that recorded, they may convey those lots to other interested parties, other owners.
All right. In review, in the staff review of this, were there any situations or any questions that you had with the, or that staff had with the subdivision ordinance as to whether or not it complied with it?
Not that they haven't been able to remedy. We've been
Yes.
back and forth on this several iterations, and we're satisfied that essentially they're pretty much ready to go forward with creating their final plat. There are a couple things that they do owe Mr. Dew, and they're in the process of getting that so that they can finalize their calculations for a bond performance package. Things like that will be required on the final plat. We'll go into a lot more detail with on the final, but from a site layout, we didn't have any problems with the current proposal.
All right. Does anyone on the planning commission have any other questions regarding this?
Just one question, and that is, and it's just a follow-up on it, in reading last month's minutes, Ms. Costello had asked about some grasses or some different things, to break up and I think that you all might have addressed that already. I didn't see it in this, but, I thought maybe you might want to address this so that we would.
Yes, sir, Mr. Humphreys, we did address that as well as adding some tree wells to the concrete areas outside of the retail component. I was going to touch on that during the COA review, but we did add some liriope, monkey grass, as well as shrubs down some of those decorative stone aspects to add the green space, but also, preserve our maintenance.
And soften some stuff where you're getting the out parcels now, soften that too.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'll touch on that again in the COA review.
Yes, I did. Something else, I have this question is for Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, could you lead us through, about this property, whether it will or will not be in the overlay district and that type of things?
Sure. We did receive a letter from Mr. Levine yesterday via email. He asked to be read into the minutes. Don't think that is necessarily appropriate, but at this time I will kind of go over the gist of what he had concerns about, were that if there is a subdivision, that all of the lots that are created from that subdivision, that they would remain within the overlay district, the entrance corridor overlay district. And yes, they would. That is a part of the special use permit that was approved back in 2015. So as long as that is upheld, that we will continue to see these projects come back before us for each individual lot within this subdivision.
I'd like to note for the record that a copy of Mr. Levine's letter has been provided to each commissioner here tonight.
Thank you.
Can they be read into the record?
No, I don't think we're gonna read it into the record. Everyone has a copy of it though, but I don't intend to read it into the record.
As well as all council members received one too.
All right, any other questions? Comments? What is your desire in regards to this preliminary subdivision plat review?
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we accept the preliminary subdivision plat as presented.
A second to that motion? Any additional discussion? All right, if not, we'll have a roll call vote on this, please.
Sure. Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Ms. Costello?
Aye.
Mr. Austin?
Aye.
Ms. Reeves?
Aye.
Dr. Berger?
Aye.
And Mr. Schuman is abstained. Thank you. And
Thank
again, we
you.
will see this back before Planning Commission again as a final plat to go on the council.
Thank you very much. Item 5 on our agenda tonight is the certificate of appropriateness. Marathon Realty Corporation owners, Post Office Box 518, Abingdon. Application for a certificate of appropriateness for new construction, lighting, landscaping, signage located near 440 Green Spring Road, Abingdon, Virginia, including a portion of tax map number 021-1-5B. Mr. Spangler?
Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to just give a little bit of overview on this.
Please.
This is a little bit different, just for the commission and for the public to have this information. Typically, with a certificate of appropriateness, it is heard at the planning commission level, and it is approved at the planning commission level or denied. It is handled at planning commission level. With the exception of signage, which is always, in the recent past, has always been done by staff. The code does permit that. In this particular case, because the site is subject to a special use permit, it comes to planning commission for a recommendation to town council, which town council will have final say in the COA. This one's gonna be a little bit different too, because the applicant we're going to be requesting a comprehensive signage plan, which is something that planning commission has done before. But again, the decision-making body on that will be town council. My understanding is that the applicant is working on a comprehensive signage plan that they will present to planning commission in July, and that both of these matters will be forwarded to town council, tentatively scheduled for the August 1st meeting. I just wanted to clear that up. It's a little bit different than what we normally do. Just wanted to be clear about that. And if you have questions about the process, be happy to answer them.
Very good, thank you. Yes, sir.
Well, thank you again, Chairman and members of the Planning Commission for listening to us tonight. This represents the 5th time I've been in front of the commission over the last 5 months, presenting various aspects of the entire COA submittal. Tonight, obviously, is our formal submittal, and so the way I've decided to present this, we would just go over each component. In lieu of regurgitating everything and getting into any detail, I'll just kind of give an overview synopsis of what we've done, how each plan started, how we got to where we're at, and then if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those at that time. Site plan. This was the initial site plan that everybody saw as part of our rezoning application. We met with various stakeholders, internal and external, listened to the planning commission, listened to the town council, as well as had avenues with the public to discuss their concerns with the plan, and it evolved into what you've seen previously, I believe back in March, as well as part of our other presentations. This includes detached buildings, a 62,000 plus or minus anchor food city, and roughly 25,000 square foot of shops comprised in 3 buildings. This is just a grading plan showing the development that's here in front of you tonight in conjunction with the out parcel uses, 7 out parcels as currently designed in the plat that just was approved. And just some basics with the evolution of the site plan. Again, detached buildings, creating commercial village concept, minimizing visual impacts of the parking lots from the right-of-way, pedestrian orientation and gathering places. We've incorporated sidewalks throughout the development and created larger usable areas around retail components to encourage public gathering opportunities. Building reorientation. We've pulled the buildings toward property lines with minimum to no impact on the Creeper Trail view shed, and we further added berms to mitigate any remaining minor visual exposure from the trail. And then parking requirements, and I think Mr. Johnson will touch on this later. We've actually reduced the parking count versus code in order to add landscape islands, berms, as well as minimize, again, the visual impacts of the overall lot. So that's basically the site plan. Be happy to answer any questions regarding that component.
There's a request in the site plan to reduce the total parking spots.
I believe the underlining zoning is 5.5 for every 1,000 square feet, which would be 400 and, do you have that? 70.
470.
We've just, by incorporating the extensive amount of landscaping and the islands that we've put into the parking area, that mandated that we have less parking areas.
Goes to 411.
Yeah, I think, so it's,
416.
which is roughly a 4.6, 4.7 to 1 parking ratio.
Somewhere around a 10 or 11% reduction in parking.
Okay.
Does that correspond to a reduction in impervious surface too?
Yes, sir.
Or replacement?
Yes, sir. Could be happy to go on to
Please.
the lighting plan. This is going to be hard to read, but this is our photometric plan, I believe, that was included in the packet. But effectively, we've provided 0-foot candles at the Creeper Trail side and residential property lines. All of our fixtures are going to be LED with shielding mechanisms both toward the sky and at the property lines. And then we will have 24-foot poles on 3-foot bases for a total height of 27 foot. They're very similar to the fixtures that we have at our corporate offices. So if you've seen those at night, that's going to be a similar application. Any questions on lighting plan? Landscape plans. Here's the overall landscaping plan. Kind of the evolution of the landscaping plan. We added a local registered landscape architect, Quinn Crogwell, to the development team a few months ago. She's done an excellent job. Utilization of heavily landscaped berms along northern property lines to, again, mitigate and eliminate impacts to the Creeper Trail view sheds. We've utilized and focused on incorporating high quality and diverse and native materials in the overall plan. And the plan is designed to enhance the architectural elements while also softening the visibility from outside the development. And, just to go through the plans. And to your point, Mr. Humphreys, earlier, I'm not sure how well you can see it on this particular plan, but, Ms. Costello made several comments on the past meetings about the decorative stone. So we worked with Quinn, and she was able to add some shrubs and some liriope grasses on some of those longer islands to break up that aspect. And we felt it was a good compromise where it broke up the decorative stone aspect, it added green, but it also maintained our maintenance threshold that we were trying to achieve. And then, Mr. Humphreys, to your comment at last meeting, we did add some tree wells and some planters on the concrete areas outside of the retail components to break those up. Then you also have to envision some of those uses having outdoor seating areas and whatnot that would further achieve that goal. So just any questions? This is just the formal. Then obviously this is a good representation of the berming along the northern property line. This is a cross-section of the berm. They're going to average around 10 feet tall, anywhere from 30 to 40 feet wide. And the material on there, I think she specified anything that's 6 inches to 25 feet at maturity. And that's above and beyond what's already in place along private road that will remain. Any questions on the landscape plan?
I'm
Okay.
gonna go ahead and bring it up.
Okay.
I'm kind of disappointed that the rock is still there, just to be honest. That there's been a little bit of change, but not much. I went on the internet and looked at, I think it was your development in Kingsport, and looked at
Downtown.
the rock there, and, you know, there's some
Mhm.
trees that are trying to grow out of it and
Mhm.
everything, and it just loses itself in the parking lot. It's not very attractive, but then again, there's differences in this plan, I understand, with the.
We tried to come up with a good compromise. I'd invite you to go, and if you haven't done so already, look at our corporate office facility, because there are some areas in the parking lot that has decorative stone, but
Mhm.
also has this type of grass, and I think it's
Right.
very attractive.
Which is referred to, I did
Yeah.
see that, it has to,
So-
it was matching the
Mhm.
original
Mhm.
for the headquarters. But I understand, I mean, I was recently told by a friend of mine that a sign of a good developer is one that comes in at the bare minimum and waits for the planning commission or the town council to, you know, pepper the design
Mhm.
and make it how they want it to look. So I understand that and I get that, and I think part of our biggest hurdle is that our ordinance isn't very strong, so you don't necessarily have to do these things that we ask. But we would like for you to make it, you know, the best looking
Mhm.
possible development that it could be.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, that would be having all those grassed. It just really, really brightens up a parking area if you can do that, and provides even more impervious surface
Mhm.
to the mix. I know that there's a maintenance issue, and I know it's a cost, you know, thing, but you've got tons of grass surrounding the development. So in my opinion, it's basically what's a little more.
It's where that grass is located. Obviously, we've had that discussion, you know,
Mhm.
we're open many hours of the day, and then, you know, expect to have a lot of customers there, and just cars parking up to those areas, it makes it difficult to maintain unless
Mhm.
there's just nobody there. And then, you know, I think it was brought up at last meeting, well, we just maintain it at night. Obviously, with the surrounding residents, that's probably not the best aspect to do either, so.
Mhm.
But we did listen, and we've tried to incorporate,
I
try to find a
understand.
good compromise
I
for
understand.
everyone.
With that, I don't know if this is the right point in your presentation to bring it up, but with the view from outside the development, do you have anything? I see you have some renditions here of, you know, color pictures of the parking area and everything. Do you have anything like what it looks like driving up to it, or off of Cummings, what it would
You know,
look
you
like?
could probably
know,
put
so-
something together, and I don't, you know, we're focused on the certificate of appropriateness for this
Right.
11-acre tract, and that's why we focused on what that plan is gonna be. You know, it really comes down to the 7 out parcels, who ultimately controls those and develops those. That's gonna eventually see what this entire development comes out to. But, you know,
Mhm.
we've always been under the guise that those parcels would be part of the overlay district as well. And quite frankly, with what we're doing and, you know, all of these aspects that we're showing, this landscape plan, detached buildings and whatnot, has increased our costs significantly than our initial design. So believe us, we want everybody as part of that development to conform to these kind of stringent requirements. And furthermore, we'll have a reciprocal easement agreement in place that, above and beyond the planning commission, will have further requirements of anybody that buys a piece of property in the development.
Well, and that also brings me to, you're gonna have a comprehensive signage plan.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you consider a comprehensive landscaping and lighting plan as well?
That's difficult to quantify. You know, we can have a discussion with Matthew Johnson, but, you know, I think that's partially up to the planning commission to dictate what is approvable, you know, and hopefully our project will be a catalyst to show what's expected, but.
Right, and I guess I'm just coming from continuity, you know,
Mhm.
like if the development,
Mhm.
it's all the meadows, so shouldn't it all
Mm.
be you know?
Yeah, and you'll see, and as far as what our reciprocal is, I know we don't have that today. That's still a work in progress in conjunction with the town. But as part of our signage details that I'm going to get into, just to show you some initial concepts, such as monuments for each out parcel, we're going to require them to be the same outside of just whatever that trademark of that particular business is. So you're not seeing all kinds of different pylons or monuments, scattered throughout, that we do
Right.
want that uniform feel.
Right, right.
So,
Just something to think about.
mhm.
Yep. And then what about, I have so many notes here, sorry, I'm just flipping through them, but, your pedestrian access, are you gonna, is that it? I'm sorry, I know, I have like the worst fade-out voice in the history.
is there a particular plan that?
Do you have, yeah, are you gonna go over that, or is that
What?
a pedestrian type plan? Like, here's our access points, here's where they'll cross over to.
Again, I don't, we get back.
I saw the two sidewalks on the exterior.
Well, I'll just kind of show you the,
It
this
looks
point-
like there's a crosswalk.
there's,
across there.
along Cook Street, which was Retail Road 1, but now it's just extension of the existing Cook Street. There's going to be sidewalks on both sides. Those are going to tie in through the second traffic circle into the athletic area. Obviously, the town will dictate how the walking and pedestrian access goes through that particular project. Then we have sidewalks going up Robertson and around to the top northern retail component. And all of those sidewalks along Cook Street also tie into Cumming Street, up the reworked Cumming Street. And then we have, it's hard to see here, and I'm pointing on here, but we have dedicated pedestrian paths throughout our commercial aspect of this particular project that ties into everything. So you can theoretically walk everywhere and have a dedicated path to get to wherever you need to be.
Okay, are you gonna have any designated crosswalks to the grocery store?
Yeah,
Like,
it's.
like coming across
Yeah, and I'm
from
gonna-
parking lot to,
If I had a pointer, I could show you exactly where, but those are shown on the site plan.
okay. I'll go back to that page.
Yeah, they don't tend to work on the, do they work on the screen? Yeah.
It doesn't work on the screen.
Works on the wall.
Yeah.
Worked on that.
Works on the wall. I walked on the screen.
Did it?
It worked up there.
You want to try this one? It's a cheapo on the side. No.
That's all I have, sorry.
Any additional questions on the landscape component? To architectural renderings, this was our initial rendering concept with attached retail going back to our initial site plan. As you can see on that date, this is from August 20th, 2015, just before we started this process. And what we've submitted is this, which is obviously a much smaller scale, more detailed Food City elevation. That's just another aspect, and this incorporates the actual landscaping plan. As you can see, Ms. Costello, that shows some of the liripe and what was stone last month. These are our shops components, again, incorporating all of the elements from the Food City elevation. This is a rear application showing that we wrap all sides, all elevations with the same materials. And this is actually the rear Food City elevation, which is threefold. Obviously, it adds a decorative feel to the rear of the building. It aids in sight and recognition from Cumming Street, but it also adds as a screen to the mechanical equipment on top of the roof. And then our gas and go elevation, which you have elements that match the Food City elevation. You've got a crown molding trim brick columns, and the kiosk would have the same materials as the Food City and the shops components. And then kind of the elevation evolution of the elevation design. It incorporates elements from downtown, including the Barter Theater, United Methodist, Sinking Strings Presbyterian Church, as well as materials details already approved in the Abingdon Historic District. Changes and/or addition of brick color, trim, stonework, awning color, rear elevation, and accent details represent a truly distinctive Food City design for Abingdon. We integrate high-end materials, including brick and stone, and accent details across all retail components and all elevations, including the rear of the buildings, and reduce scale. Reduce the scale of the buildings to minimize visual impacts outside of the development. This is done in conjunction with the landscape plan, as we discussed earlier. And then the rest is, and that's just, I do have some, I don't know if we want to pass these around or what, but this is, some of these are heavy, but this is, represents the entablature detail. These are really heavy.
It's brick color.
That's the main brick color. Right. Can everybody see it here? And then the accent brick. And these are all general shell products. And then the stone veneer at the base of the buildings. I'd be happy to pass around any of the elements for further review, but, you know, the main color was the first. These are just, again, different aspects of the development. That's coming off Robertson Road, the rear development, northern side. That's the one northern retail aspect, which will have berms surrounding. You can kind of see the berms around there. And that's an aerial view going west.
And I think, if you don't mind me interrupting, I think this one does show some of the circulations. It's a little harder to see on the screen up there, but in the packet, the pedestrian walkways around the internal components there.
Yeah, you can kind of see on the right side, that going into the park, or the sidewalk going in front of the retail component, and that's throughout, tying into the actual right-of-way sidewalks that will tie into existing right-of-way, and then ultimately into the recreational facility.
I guess I had more of my question was more relative to, say you're gonna go shopping, and so you pull into one of those spaces, and you're gonna cross the street from right there, rather than walk all the way down and go over here, and, you know, nobody's gonna do that. They're just gonna, like we do now when we go to Food City, we just, you know, walk right across the parking lot. I was wondering if there's any plans to have some type of pedestrian crossing, stopping, kind of, hey, there's people crossing here, stop, let them go.
Well, we do have crosswalks, and, you know, and that was one, you know, kind of issue that, you know, when we changed the site plan itself, where we had attached components, you know, you bring that element in, whereas if you were shopping at Food City and wanted to go down to the right or to the left of, you know, to any of the retail components, our first design iteration allowed that. Obviously, you know, by doing this, you get the village feel, you get to hide the parking lot, you get some areas that you can, you know, have some outdoor uses, but, you know, we do provide a path to get to everywhere, but, you know, I guess it's ultimately up to that consumer whether or not they're going to use that marked path or, you know, go across the parking lot. And then this just shows some of the dimensions of each of the building and the heights of some of the buildings. Our shops are 60 to 72 foot depth. That's typical in retail shops. Food City's 191 foot by 305 feet. Just to the first elevation is 27 foot, and to the peak of the peak, it's 37 feet total height, which was substantially smaller than what we originally showed. The shops are 18 to 20 feet at the parapet. Any questions on architectural elements? And then that gets Matthew. I don't know if we want to get into this right now or wait till afterwards.
I think it's fine to show them that your ideas on signage that you're working on,
Mhm.
just as a discussion item, like we've done in the previous meetings. Knowing that it will be coming back for a comprehensive signage plan consideration, tentatively scheduled for the 25th of July. That's the next planning commission meeting.
And that's our goal, and these are still in design process, but just wanted to give the commission a little bit of an orientation of which way we're going, just to get some feedback, so as we bring this to an official review, that we can incorporate some of those comments. Again, as you can see, the materials match what we're proposing to do at our retail development. This is actually the pylon, proposed pylon that would be on Cumming Street, effectively across the street from the current town center sign. If just to give you orientation, basically where you currently turn right onto Green Springs Road. As you realign Cook Street, that area is going to be where this sign's proposed to go. And this is just the elevation. It's
Stephen, not to interrupt you, but is that as you're looking at you all have a sign that's presently there as you turn up to Cook Street going to your present location. Is that going to be kind of a comparable sign?
This is designed at 55 feet. That sign is 48 feet. So it's comparable. And we took that as kind of a design cue to, we didn't want to overbuild or over-design. We just thought that doesn't look out of place. And, this is a comparable size development. And
Well,
so.
it's just a sign I've seen.
Mhm.
I see all the time. So,
Mhm.
it's one of those
Yeah.
things where,
That's a fair.
It gives me a visual of what.
And that's the reason we got that height, is just because I think if you just say 55 feet, that's hard to kind of get a feel for what that is, but that kind of provides context of what we're proposing. We don't have an official development name, so we just have a placeholder. Obviously, Food City is the anchor tenant. And those sign bands would only be for the out parcel uses. None of the retail uses would have a presence on Cumming Street. So hotels, restaurants on the out parcels, lending institutions, whatnot, would have a presence there. We do have an electronic reader board, similar to what we currently have on the town center sign, as well as our Gas and Go pricing signage. And I don't have a pointer, but basically to the south of the realigned Cook Street is where we propose to have this installed, effectively across the street, across Cummings from the current town center sign. This would be a interpretation of the monument sign heading into the retail component that is up for discussion tonight. It would have, obviously, the anchor tenant Food City, and all those sign bands would be for the actual retail users in the 25,000 square feet of the development. This elevation rendering kind of shows a proposed location for that. Basically, just going past the Gas and Go, as you turn left into the Food City, you'll have obviously that presence that you can read from both sides coming into the development. We have, it's currently shown at 18 feet. And then our Gas and Go sign to be located effectively adjacent to the existing Gas and Go along Cook Street. If you see on this rendering, there's a little Go sign along the right-of-way to the right of the Gas and Go. That's where we proposed this type of sign to be. And Ms. Costello, to your point earlier, it's our thought, and this will be dictated in the comprehensive signage plan, as well as the reciprocal easement agreement and covenants documents, that some iteration of this, whether it's maybe a little bit bigger or whatnot, is what we would require each out parcel to build. And then where you see gas and go and the pricing and even the area under that, that would just be the area for their particular logo or brand or whatnot they wanted to do. But overall, that signage would be uniform throughout. Any questions so far on the signage? To Mr. Johnson's comments earlier, where this is still a work in progress, it's our goal to have this in front of the commission next month.
Did you take the maximum sign height? Did they take the maximum sign height for the first sign?
Say
The
that again.
maximum sign height for the first sign. Did
Oh.
you take it? Is that maximum or?
It's not, there isn't, with a comprehensive signage plan, they have the flexibility to create their own guidelines, specifically their own, basically their code for this site. And it's comprehensive in nature, it'll apply to all the sites together. So they can make that size, materials, square footage of signage, those types of things, they can take all of those into account when they do that and change them accordingly. So there is not a maximum sign height for them if they do the comprehensive signage plan. It'll be up to the commission and ultimately the council to make the recommendation on what they think is appropriate.
And that's why we took a cue from the town center, just to, not to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, and take what's existing and design off of that. So we're not coming at some hugely expansive sign. It's going to be appropriate to the area that's already there.
Just as for Matthew, you know, one of the things that could help us is, in looking at all this when it comes up the 25th, is to know how large the Kroger sign is that's in the middle of their parking lot, because I know it's a pretty tall sign, and it's right in the middle of the parking lot. So knowing that that's 60 foot or 65 foot might help us look at kind of trying, and then knowing that the other's 48, and kind of get the visual on what it might be.
And that is a good point. I've had those discussions with Mr. Spangler here recently to get, you know, for example, the Shoney's and some of the other signs that are up and down that Cummings Street entrance, just to get some ideas of what those signages, you know, heights are.
Right.
We'll do our best to get those for you.
And there's nothing in the overlay district that talks about heights and,
In the overlay district, how it would normally happen, for example, let's just use XYZ drugstore or something. If they came in, the architectural components, the site plan layout, the landscaping, those types of things would be considered by planning commission under the entrance corridor. There's provision in the code that allows the signage information to be approved administratively. But they would have to meet whatever the code says for their size lot. This is a lot different because it's a much larger development. So it does make a lot of sense, in my opinion, to have a comprehensive signage plan. It gives them flexibility. It also gives the planning commission and ultimately the council some decision-making authority in that, so they can get a product that they're happy with. So I know that that's not probably answering your question, but it's not generally handled by the planning commission in a normal COA process. It's handled administratively. This does give flexibility to both parties to craft something that is appropriate for everyone.
right, I was just curious, yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
Any additional questions on signage, the route we're going, or any other component of the submittal?
Mr. Johnson, I know we mentioned this a little bit earlier when he was talking about landscaping. Is there anything to prohibit us from approval of this with a comprehensive landscape plan so that we can have the uniformity we've discussed?
My opinion on that is that you would not want to do a comprehensive sign. I mean, it's a comprehensive landscaping plan. We don't have anything in the code that directs us in that way.
Okay.
It is the purpose of the entrance corridor overlay district to allow the planning commission and, in this case, it will ultimately go to town council, to have them give ideas of what they think is appropriate. So, like Mr. Spangler said, we hope that what they've done here will be a guide to what we expect other lots in this development to adhere to.
And we can assure the uniformity by approving that on a step-to-step basis.
That's
Is that what
correct.
you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's go back to a rock again. That one bothers me too. I know we discussed this, I guess, at the last meeting. Tell me, I see the rock and I see where they go and everything. I mean, are they just, for example? you
It's
were talking
decorative,
about it-
it's decorative stone.
Okay. Small stone or large?
I think there's some flexibility to determine. I know at our Food City developments, it's a larger stone. At our corporate headquarters, it's a smaller stone. So, yes.
You know, you were talking about people choosing where they walk through the parking lot, for example. They don't always walk the sidewalk. They strike out on their own path. Crossing these areas, a child walking through there, for example, are these rock that are standing up such that a child could very easily get a foot in them
No, I
or feel
think-
an ankle?
No, I think they'd be installed in an appropriate manner, not to be stable. And again, it's an application that's used a lot of different developments. I think the town utilizes it in a lot of their projects that they move forward. It's outside of the building here, actually. So,
Yeah, but that's not an area where you would anticipate foot traffic, on the south side of the building.
yes, sir, and that's why we provide dedicated pedestrian access, is to allow and to promote traffic to go on the prescribed trails. And there's actually only 2 locations on the entire site plan that potentially would have somebody going over an actual island.
I think ideally, and I'm just gonna say, in my world, I'm not a landscape architect, but it would be interesting to see how these would work, your 2 strips in the center where you've got the rock and the trees. If that were wide enough to carry, if that were grassed wide enough to carry a sidewalk through the center where it comes out at the front of the store, and there'd be a major, maybe this one here would work best, there would be a major crosswalk stop, maybe hump to slow people down, this is where people cross.
Yeah,
I've seen that in other developments, that's just, what I'm saying. but-
Yeah, it's going to impact our site layout,
Yeah,
you
it would.
So it'd be, because as you're adding that width, everything else is kind of affected by that.
Right,
And we've already reduced our parking significantly,
which is good.
yes. We don't want to, we anticipate this to be a high-volume store, and we do need the parking
Right, I
to
understand.
accommodate our peak hours.
And again, I wouldn't be picking at you about these things if our ordinance was a bit more colorful, I guess. with its
I understand, and you've
landscaping
been
and-
vocal about it over the last 3 meetings, and that's why we really took time with Quinn, and she feels that's a good compromise, and we did that just based on the comments that you provided.
Mhm.
All right, any additional questions, Mr. Spain?
Mr. Chairman, is it appropriate to ask questions about stormwater runoff and permitting associated with this project? Is that within the purview of the planning commission? Even though those things are regulated by other bodies?
I don't think there's any problem if you.
Could just be for discussion's sake, but the idea of the comprehensive plan has me thinking about the comprehensive stormwater plan. And I assume, do you have those permits already, or are they something you do next?
We're working through that
That's the next
with
stage.
our engineering consultants, along with Mr. Dew and his staff.
And that'll only be for this
It'll be for the entire development.
Oh, so you are, it is a
Yes.
comprehensive stormwater, so all of the
Yes.
detention ponds and everything will be based on an as-built with some estimated impervious surface cover for all the new lots,
Yes, sir.
and potentially even the build-out for the town's side, or no?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
All that's incorporated. You know, that was more from the plat, what you saw and what you approved in the preliminary plat.
Yeah.
That would be the comprehensive plan that would be based off of. This is just a certificate of appropriateness for our retail development.
Mr. Bircher, I might also point out that at the last, I believe the last meeting when we did the boundary adjustment so that the town could get greater separation from the house, the reason we were able to do that is because of their stormwater management plan that was able to reduce that section
I
down.
remember part of
Yeah.
that at the previous meeting.
And that adjustment was shown on the plat. And
I know that Wolf Creek has a sediment, TMDL fancy talk, and this, oh, yeah. Well, I can't remember what Mr. Kelly just said.
It's on.
Hello, check. Yeah, Wolf Creek, the stream that drains this area has a sediment impairment already, and I guess that'll be taken care of in the process of permitting for stormwater with DEQ, because any additional sediment going into a stream that's already impaired for sediment theoretically carries bigger penalties and has stricter. And my concern was that the stormwater plan would only be based on what we're approving as appropriate this day, but I've been told that's incorrect. Appreciate that.
Okay, other questions? Thank you, sir.
well, thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, sir. What's the will of the commission in regards to this?
For a motion?
I could certainly entertain that if you care to do so.
Okay, I would like to recommend approval of the certificate of appropriateness to the town council with the following conditions: that the applicant shall submit a comprehensive signage plan within 3 months of June the 27th, 2016, for consideration, and a permit a reduction of the amount of parking as required by the code from 470 spaces to 416 spaces.
All right, thank you. Again, this is for recommendation to the town council. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Now additional discussion.
Mr. Chairman, just as a matter of clarification, I understand the motion and the second that's been made, but is it my understanding that the comprehensive sign plan is planned to be brought back before this commission at the next planning commission meeting?
That's the plan.
Okay.
It is, the recommendation was just in there just to give a specific time frame
got you.
and just to, make sure, but the intent is to bring it at the 25th of July. That's correct.
And therefore, nothing would hit the council's desk until August?
At the earliest, it would be August the 1st, that's
Okay.
correct.
All right.
All right, other discussion in regards to the motion.
I would just like to say a couple of things, which I was really pleased by the effort that was put forth to protect the creeper trail. I know that's been a big concern in town, and I'm just very pleased that all the steps were taken to protect that, because I think it's one of our key resources in the town for tourism and economic development, and I would like to thank you for that.
All right, are we ready to vote? Have a roll call vote, please.
Sure, Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Ms. Costello?
I'm going to vote aye, but strictly because the code permits this particular design, so aye.
Mr. Austin?
Aye.
Mr. Reeves? Miss Reeves, excuse me?
Aye.
Dr. Bercher,
Aye.
and Mr. Schuman is abstaining. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, item 6 on our agenda, Mr. Schuman, you're gonna come back up and join us?
I thought you already gone.
Get you out of the penalty box. Item 6 on our agenda tonight is for public comment. Anyone who would like to address the commission that is in the audience tonight are now welcome to approach the podium. Please give your first and last name, your physical address, and please remember that your comments are limited to 3 minutes. I would
Well, I just gonna say, I did not have anybody sign up. Just for future meetings, we would appreciate it if you did sign up at the beginning of the meeting. Thank you.
I would also note that this is not a question and answer situation, but please make any comments that you would like to make to the planning commission at this time. Mr. Proctor, come up, please.
Nick Proctor at 11092 Treeline Drive. I'll be brief. The first is that the regulations for the light poles say 24 feet, and that's been fairly consistent. We're at 27 feet with the concrete bases, so there's some inconsistencies there. As far as the landscaping plan, all of the renderings that we've seen are fairly deceptive. In the planting schedule, as you all have, is that there's nothing over 6 to 8 feet tall as planted. I'm 6 feet tall. With the average growth rate of all of those species, you're not going to see maturity in between 7 to 15 years. So as far as their screening abilities, forget it for a decade. The last thing is to Ms. Costello's point of the view sheds and to Ms. Reeves' comment here about protecting the creeper trail. We have no clue how it protects the creeper trail or I-81 or Cummings Street. Those drawings have not been presented. The information to create the digital models is there. I've created one myself to know that it is available. So we can take the recommendation that the berms and the planting will suffice, but we simply do not know. You all simply don't know. It hasn't been in your packets and it hasn't been presented tonight. I'll raise these comments to the council at their next meeting, and hopefully they'll listen to those as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to address the commission, please?
Good evening. I'm Nan Harmon, 498 Green Spring Road. And with the plans and the site plans that I've seen, I have concerns, and someone brought up the drainage, the water drainage situation. I've had engineers circling my property and looking at it from the Washington Crossings, Magic Mart. I've had Appalachian Power Company people coming about moving power poles, and but nobody's talking to me from the development company about drainage. There were some men looking at my creeks and the water coming, through my property and down through my lot, and the little pipe that goes under the pavement at the Magic Mart Shopping Center. So I'm going, well, what's going on here? I don't know if it's appropriate for someone to fill me in on what's going on. Also, I talked with the Appalachian Power man about grading. He has to move a power pole because of the hilltop removal and filling in, flattening, the meadows, and the way the dirt comes down to the property line, which is right at my property line. So I'm concerned about that. Will there be retaining walls, or will the dirt just run down through my property? And also I'm concerned about fencing. And I can't read plans very well, but I am concerned about fencing because I have, animals. I have cows there now with the bull. And, the story goes that there could be a hog farm there, and hogs and children just don't mix. So I wondered about the fencing. you know, and how that's going to work. I have a lot of questions since this is my home, my life. I came back to Abingdon to live at my family farm, and looks like that might change. I don't know if I'm going to see. I don't know what the future holds. Not to get off on a sideline, but if this Meadows property gets developed, of course there's a lawsuit going on, but if it does get developed, I just wonder if the town expects me to be the last holdout for green space in Abingdon, because I have 26 acres there, you know, pretty farmland. So I don't know. Maybe I should be talking to, you know, Costco, Trader Joe's. What, you know, maybe I need to be talking to somebody. And if we're gonna, you know, if we're gonna change the face of Abingdon, maybe I should just plow right ahead with it and go, let her rip. Let's be exit 7, because it's going to be real hard for me to live. Magic Mart's hard enough. It's noisy enough. Yes, my parents sold. They didn't want to sell. It was a financial decision. I wish they hadn't. But you know, if the Meadows goes and I'm between the two, then we'll see. That's just, you know, I'm going off on a limb now, but that's my heart speaking, and also my future. So I'm one person. You know, I know that we do sometimes the best for the many instead of the one, and but just a lot of unknowns in my life. I would like to be, you know, to try to get some information on just certain things, you know, about the project. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, and
Bye.
I would suggest, and I don't know that staff has the answer to all the questions you posed tonight, but I would suggest very strongly that make an appointment with Mr. Johnson or with other members of the staff, and they'll be happy to sit down and go over these issues and these concerns that you have. They're here for that purpose, and I'm sure they'd be very kind and happy to do that with you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the commission? Please.
Good evening, and thank you for hearing us this evening, council. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm council. That's right, yeah. Planning Commission and Chairman. I did have a thing to say this evening. I'm Cindy Patterson, and I live at 410 Green Spring Road. And in regards to what Ms. Harmon said, my heart goes out to her as well, and especially, you know, her and her little business that she has. And I've never really said this before, but I do have concerns with my business as well. I have a bed and breakfast, and if this development does get underway, you know, there will be a lot of noise with the machinery, and if they dynamite, I have spoken about that before. I have horses, and they're all, well, the girls are expecting babies, and so it's very hard for animals to understand that type of noise and destruction of property. And so I just want to say for the record that I am concerned about my business and my livelihood. That is my livelihood. I'm not going to make a whole lot of money with the town council, but I'm going to try to help Abingdon best I can being on the council. But that is my livelihood, and I do hope that you all will consider that. I don't know what else to say, but that's my heart speaking as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, if not, before we begin our strength and weakness analysis, let's get Mr. Johnson's report, Director of Planning report. Do you have anything?
One thing that I was going to bring up is Mrs. Reeves did attend the Certified Planning Commissioner training in Roanoke, and I was going to ask just for a brief update on that, see how that went.
Well, first I want to thank you for allowing me to do this. It's been interesting for me so far. I've spent 2 days in Roanoke, and now I have homework assignments for the
Many weeks of homework
for the
assignments.
next 10 weeks, including 4 books. It's been very interesting so far because I'm getting an update since the last 10 years of basically, what's gone on in planning. And also a different perspective, having lived in Fairfax County, and what I'm reading now is about small town planning. So I'm learning a lot through that. And I would recommend it to all of you. It is a time commitment because you go for 2 full days and then you go for another 2 full days, and then you have assignments that have to be turned in on a regular basis and essays to write. So it's made me more aware of a lot of things in town. I think I'm starting to see it with a better eye for small towns rather than, I was used to Fairfax County and I knew what to look for then, and now I'm getting a little different perspective, and I really appreciate that. It's very helpful to me.
Well, thank you for doing that. That was all I had in the Director of Planning report for
All
this
right,
evening.
very good. Open it up to members of the planning commission to discuss any strengths or weaknesses.
Well, looking at this, I think one of the weaknesses we need to realize, I think most of us already know, is the need for updating ordinances. And, we really need to be able to do that. There's a direct lacking of that. Part of it is that we've outgrown some of the ordinance we have, some of that is just need to be implemented that we've never had. I also know that this is a tremendously, not only time-consuming, but expensive process. Literally tens of thousands of dollars it takes to do this. And I'm not sure that Ms. Reeves alluded to the fact of looking at the, with a new eye towards small towns, and I'm not sure that anybody in the small town of Abingdon actually has the expertise to do the entire ordinance. I think we're going to have to bring some people in. Mr. Kelly would know better than I. I know that Cecile Rosenbaum, she is a certified planning commissioner. She has certainly done this, and, there's so much stuff that we need to probably have on the books that we don't have on the books. And so, I think that that's one of our weaknesses. I think that's something we certainly could work on. I don't think there's any money in the budget for it this year, but it's something we can look for next year. And, if it's going to be $100,000 to redo all the ordinances, maybe put in $20,000 a year for 5 years and try to get them done in 5 years. So we'll be like the 6-year transportation plan. So.
That was something, and I know Greg would remember that we started at one time back when I was on the commission before and didn't make a lot of headway. And I would agree that I think you're going to have some professional aspect of that to get it all done. I think we tried to do that sort of on a piecemeal basis. And as I recall, we talked about it a lot, but didn't make a whole lot of progress. And so I would agree with Councilman Humphreys on that. I think it's something that really needs to be done, and it gets away from some of the special uses and some of the things that are more. I think that are more done quickly to solve problems as opposed to having all of that laid out. So I definitely agree that that's a need. And again, Greg, we did do that, but
it's a long process. The last time we did a comprehensive a comprehensive code update was when we did the subdivision ordinance, and I was town attorney at the time, and Cecile was my legal assistant, and we had 3 staff people, and we went line by line through the entire subdivision ordinance, and it took months. It took forever to get through that, and that was just something that involved 5 staff people meeting virtually on a regular basis for months to do it. So I agree if we can find a reasonably way that doesn't break the bank, then we probably ought to bring somebody in to do
I
it.
agree. I think it should be prioritized. And I was going to ask, you've had a inquiry with the town council a couple meetings ago, right? And what happened with that?
We just presented it to them that we would bring that to them in a future meeting time to
Okay.
discuss it a little bit more. That's where it stands at this point.
Okay. I think one of the major indicators of the need for code updates are rezonings. We keep seeing those, and we've been seeing a lot for a small town, so.
Yeah.
And I had one other issue I'd like to talk about, which is, from everything I know at this point, we're gonna have a lot of transportation changes going on at the various exits, and then got I don't know what the plan is for Green Spring alignment, just exactly where that's gonna fall. But I don't know if it would be possible to put together some sort of subcommittee of our planning commission where we could be more informed about what's gonna go on with that, because, I know that the biggest kind of sore thumb for residents often is, when traffic is disrupted, and if we're planning that, we might have that, I hope not simultaneously, at 3 different exits, we're going to have a lot of very upset people, and so I would just like to be kept informed as to when this is going to happen, and sort of a timeline, and how they're going to manage traffic. I know that's really the council's problem, but I think we'll be having people talking about it here.
Well, yeah, they're gonna talk about it everywhere, and, but I think that one of the things, you're exactly right, and we actually had an appointed commission, or not appointed subcommittee, and it was Greg,
Mr. Craig.
Wayne Craig,
And John.
and John Dew. And those were the 3 people that were, of course, that was when Wayne Craig was on that's where he resigned from the planning commission. And so, those 3 were able to we're looking at, the projects, how they evolved, how they're evolving, what we need to try to get a priority on. I don't know how much they were able to do, but I know they were able to talk to VDOT a lot, and they were able to, and particularly Wayne, Wayne took maps and drawings and everything else. But I think that one of the things that helped precipitate anything happening, especially exit 17, because I think that was a low priority, was Food City going in. I think Food City going in kicked it immediately up to a higher priority. Actually, it's the number 1 priority, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, we're looking at, I would really, really hope that gets kicked in. That wouldn't hurt me to see it all happen kind of one time, it's kind of like the one, it's like pulling the Band-Aid. I don't know if that would happen, but, so you have two members, I guess I should say. There's 2 members on probably now a defunct committee. I don't think that, I think Greg would rather be boiled in oil than be on that committee again, but,
And didn't we also have a committee, or we were setting up committees for liaison between the county and, remember that?
yes.
Yeah.
We talked about
We
doing
talked
that.
about
That would be great.
They're
I
right,
wouldn't just
yeah.
volunteer myself.
Y'all probably know, you probably read in the paper, right now, 6:30, I think tonight, 6:30, they're embroiled in the,
the
rock
rock quarry.
that's gonna be, it's out at the golf course, there in Bristol, so it's Bristol, Worcester County.
It's tomorrow
It's Worcester-
night.
It's tomorrow night, okay, it's tomorrow night, but it's it'll be at 6:30 tomorrow night, so they're gonna have, some things to think about too.
Mr. Johnson, did we neglect to, do we need to recommend a bond in our motion?
No, sir, it will be a part of the final plat
Okay.
package that goes with the Marathon Realty.
Just wanted to be sure we didn't neglect that.
No, sir, it is a component of their final plat.
Yes, sir. All right, anything else?
Can we, and Matthew, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but these things we just talked about in the SWOT analysis, can we have those kind of as each time we bring these up, so we act on them? I know that council has been very kind of, there's so many things that are going on. One tends just to forget them until you have it come up again. You go, oh, by the way, and it's been probably at least almost a year since Wayne brought this up and had this. So, and it's something that would be nice to have an ongoing committee that could be a subcommittee, and to look at the traffic opportunities that we have in our community. So
I'll follow up with that. I'd like to follow up with Mr. Dew. I don't want to put him on the spot, but I would like to follow up with him and pick his brain about how we can best do that. I've got some ideas, and I'll bring them back to you at the 25th meeting.
Okay.
I'd be happy to make some appointments to that committee. I'd want to see the charge of the committee first, and I think that's the way we'd want to go about setting the committee up. But
As a staff person, it'd be great not to have another meeting, but I think we can handle it without doing it that way.
Okay.
And I don't want to, let me speak to Mr. Dew about it, and I'll come back to you with some suggestions.
Very good.
And if we're gonna think big, think monorail.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Anything else? I'll entertain a motion.
Good luck finding that one.
Yeah,
So moved.
Second.
It doesn't get any cheaper.